A lot of the clients I work with are really, really wealthy. I'm not talking like private jet wealthy, like,
Hmm.
right? Like really, really wealthy. And what you realize is that like wealth doesn't equal freedom.
Hmm.
Wealth is part of free. Like you need a certain amount of money to to be able to not necessarily have to show up someplace to like to make ends meet kind of thing. But it doesn't 100% equal freedom. Freedom is a mindset that you have to really cultivate in yourself and allow yourself freedom. Um, and also getting really clear on what makes you feel free. And I think a lot of times what people think is like, I think if you haven't had the luxury experiences, you think, oh, I got to go to like a five-star hotel or I got to have like the Birkin bag and then I'll feel like I'm successful. But once you've had those experiences in life, you sometimes realize like, oh, they're like not, it's not that. And then you realize, a lot of times when I work with these people who are very, very wealthy, it's like what you really want is like eat dinner at home. That's like a homemade meal,
Hmm.
which is actually like in our life, that's a much harder thing for people to get, right? Like going to a fancy restaurant in some ways is a lot easier than cultivating time to have dinner at home 2 or 3 nights a week that's homemade. Like that's the real luxury nowadays.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I would definitely tell your listeners to do is just like practice what it feels like to just like do something that's not necessarily useful or productive, but just free or joyful. Like just and not and I mean there's some parameters on that. Don't like I challenge you to choose something that doesn't depend on another person because I think a lot of times we're looking like, oh, I'm gonna go out for a walk with my partner, but like allow yourself to just do it yourself first, so you can experience what that feels like. That's the first exercise I would give people to practice on their own is like allowing themselves a taste of freedom and seeing what it will look like. And the other thing I tell people is like really start getting clear on what things actually make you happy, not things that you think should make you happy, right? Like we all go on the vacation that we think should make us happy. We go buy the thing that we think should make us happy. And then, but just check in, like, is it actually giving you that sort of release that you need? And if it's not, keep playing around with things until you find what it is and then set metrics for yourself. Like set yourself like I'm gonna allow myself to do this many times and then actually do it. And metrics, I love metrics. Metrics are really important parts because people say like I want to feel more connected to my husband or my wife or whatever it is that they want. Or I want to feel I'm like, okay, what does that look like? What does connection? And then let's look at it. Like let's see if we're making progress because once we get to like that part's really important to the and the metrics can be what I like to call lag indicators, which are like habits or behaviors that will lead to my end goal because sometimes we're looking at things as like for example like let's say you want to buy your first investment property like that's your goal. The goal we look at sometimes is like do I have an investment property or not. It's a very dichotomous thing and that's the only metric we're measuring, but that's not the way to measure it as you're building it. The way to measure it is like I'm gonna like for me I was interested in learning about land investing for a while, so I was like I'm gonna analyze 4 deals every week, and that was my metric. And then, like, so you can do that for real estate. Like, I'm going to analyze the numbers for 4 deals. And when maybe you're too hesitant to buy, follow a deal. Be like, this is a deal I would want to buy. Follow it, save it on Zillow, save it on whatever you're looking at, and then follow them. See what the progress of the other person was. You can learn from just like observing in the market in that way. If like you're out there scared to invest in real estate, do that first. See, like, okay, if I bought this, what would it have looked like? Then a few months later, if somebody else has bought it, listed it for rent, see what it looks like. Like next level thing that you could do is like I give myself 20 20 20 3 20s 20 minutes of growth, something that like I would like to learn more about. I like spend 20 minutes learning, reading, watching YouTube videos on something I want to learn about. When with land investing I was just like 20 minutes of like learning more about land and whatever. 20 minutes of exercise every day, like minimum. I exercise a lot more than that usually, but 20 minutes minimum of that. And then 20 minutes of like self-reflection time for me. And that to me is
Mm.
freedom. It's like every day without fail, that 20 20 20 is always in my day. I always do it. That's like like when you start doing that, like your life is unstoppable. Like
Yeah.
that self-reflection time, that's what we do in coaching. I'm sitting there reflecting with you and holding space for you and asking you questions that you might be nervous to ask yourself. But and that's what vulnerability is too. Also, PS, frick, I beeping hate, I beeping hate public vulnerability. Like this
Mm.
whole vulnerability thing that you hear all over, like you gotta be vulnerable. You don't need to be vulnerable with the world. You need to be vulnerable with yourself. Now, if you have a coach can help bring out that vulnerability. But we're scared to meet ourselves about the things that are difficult in our life. Like, like sometimes someone has a hard time in their marriage, right? They're sitting there like they're just trying to avoid that hardness. But like when you sit with it and you look at it and you examine it, that's where the solutions come from. So that 20 minutes of self-reflection, that's vulnerability time and vulnerability with myself. And so when people talk about vulnerability, like I do not like public vulnerability, going out there spilling your business on the world, not for
Mhm.
me. And honestly, I think a lot of it is performative because when things that are really vulnerable, they feel bad. Like they don't feel good to put out there. Um, and so that I think is like once you do start doing that, the 20 20 20, I feel like that's the secret sauce of life. Like 20 minutes spent on something that, like how you want to grow, 20 minutes of exercise, movement a day, and 20 minutes of like sort of self reflection and self vulnerability. Was a woman, recent graduate, like she was an early grad, like she had gotten out of residency a year before, and hired me, and she had hired me for something very specific about career advice. But like I was like, all right, we can set that goal, and we did set that goal. And I was like, but we're gonna round out your goals too, right? Like she's like, so we first worked on that, but then we added other goals, and like one of her goals was about sorry about that. One of her goals was about she had debt, student debt, and credit card debt. Um, and the credit card debt was like really high percentage. It was like made me like, oh, we got to fix this.
Mhm.
Um, and then she also had a goal, like she wasn't really like where she wanted to be physically or whatever. So we added these goals in, and like literally, she was like, "It's gonna take me a year to pay this credit card." I was like, "No, we're gonna chop this." And she paid it off. Like we worked together for 6 months, and she paid it off in the fifth month, like completely done
Oh
with a
wow.
thing that she thought was gonna take her a year or two to pay off. She lost like 20 pounds. Like she just like
Wow.
your whole life changes when you put those things together. Um, and she like has a plan of how she's going to move through her career as she builds it, and like that's so fun to see. Or like another financial client was like, I'm too scared to leave my job. She moved to a job, she like makes more money, works way less, sees her kids. Like you just got to take a little time with yourself
Mhm.
and set metrics. The metrics are really important though. Like you
Yeah.
have to look at the metrics for yourself
And
because that's what keeps your brain focused.
yeah. Consistency and resilience and consistency apply this not just this month,
Mm.
this quarter, this year, but that consistency over time is what then you'll look back 1 year, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, and like, holy cow. It's
Mm-hmm.
self-reflection. If you journal in self-reflection, you can witness that stuff in a journal as well too. I was sitting at a closing today. This is the first closing that I've been to like since probably like pre-COVID, where we're actually sitting in the room with a seller at the same time. So it was interesting. Anyway, I was watching across the table almost like a change in their life. A lot of times when you're direct to seller, either the property is distressed or the seller is distressed or both, right? And I was watching kind of like the weight come off of their shoulders because this home that they were in, it's packed full of stuff. It's dirty, and they felt that. I heard it. I see it in them. And then the situation with a family situation, they're moving out to the coast. They're moving out to the close to Myrtle Beach, and almost like the world of the weight of the world was lifting off their shoulders. And it reminded me of your story because when you change your environment or what's around you, it just like the clouds clear. Like that debt is a
Mm-hmm.
cloud for so many people, and being able to attack it intentionally is so important.